Welcome everybody. I'm Lee McCormack from Lee Likes Bikes, and I'm here with my friend Nicole Rubenstein from Racer's Edge Nutrition. We're here to show you the most important mountain bike skill there is. We'll call it a hinge. It's the most important motor skill a human being can have. We're meant to hinge. Most of us in this hemisphere, the Western Hemisphere, are knee and low back dominant, and as a lot of you middle-aged men know, knees and low backs have a tendency to wear out. Putting bikes on the side for right now. Learning what we're about to teach you is going to allow you to move furniture, do yard work, have a great life without a bad back. It's also going to make you a freaking shredder. Here's your bicycle. There are many others like it, but this one is yours. Without it, you're nothing, and so on. This part of your bike down here is called the bottom bracket. Here's the deal. You can see longitudinally, the bottom bracket's a little bit behind the middle of the bike, okay? If you're an alpine skier, you'll recognize that that's the position your bindings go on your skis. This is job one. Whenever we ride, the net force, the normal force, mostly your body weight, should always be in your feet. We're talking 100% of your weight on your feet. That means 0% on the saddle, and how much on the hands?
0.
0 is the answer. 100% of your weight in your feet, no weight on the saddle at all. All the weight's in the feet, no connection with the hands. When all your weight's in the feet, this is super important. For a bike like this, your weight distributes about 60% rear wheel, 40% front wheel, somewhere in there, and this is critical. When all your weight's in your feet, you cannot be flung over the handlebars onto your face. It's not possible, okay? Being thrown over the handlebars is caused by two things. Being too far forward, you'll get beaten up and you'll flop over the bars. What's worse though, right, is you're a normal human being, you're generally gonna be too far back, aren't you?
Yeah.
Especially if you're scared. When you're too far back, you get beaten up and then you get catapulted over the bars. That's where this collarbone happened. Your instinct will be to be too far forward or too far back. Those both result in over the handlebars. We want to teach you all to be right in the middle of the bike in a hinge. When you're in a hinge in the middle of the bike, you're safe, period. Now we're gonna get into hinging. Here's your bicycle, here's you. Job one, you stand on your feet, done. When your bike is going through bumps, you might have noticed that your bike does crazy things, doesn't it? So one of the things your bike does is as you go through bumps, your bike changes angle. You're going through a trough, the bars come towards you, you go across a crest, the bars go away from you. My unkept fingernail would be the handlebar. This is fun, right? The bars are constrained to an arc around your feet. Can you see this? So in order to control the angle of the bike and stay in the middle of the bike, we need our shoulders close to the bar so we have range of motion. That goes to hinging. The other cool thing your bike does, just like a ski or a snowboard in moguls, is your bike moves up and down with bumps, okay? So check it out. Your arms control the angle of the bike, up and down and side to side for cornering. Your legs, just like on skis or snowboard, control the vertical component of bumps and also your loading and unloading. The more range of motion you have with your arms and your legs, the more control you have of your bike. So here we go into the hinge zone. Let's start with a little biomechanics. Most of us, I'm gonna give you the side view, we move in a squat pattern. In a squat, you drop your butt down and your knees have to come forward. So just do this right now, wherever you are, just stand with your knees forward and you're gonna feel your quads almost immediately. These muscles are action, attack, crush the world muscles. They're not hold your body statically muscles. The muscles back here are made for static holding. So we're gonna shift from quad knee dominance to hip glute dominance. When you ride your bike, the bike's gonna go up and down and do this thing. You need range of motion in order to ride and control. If you get on your bike like a dummy and you're tight, you don't have said range of motion, you will not have control. At worst, you get hurt. At best, you're out of control and you start to create these trauma cycles in your brain that mean like, oh, bumps equals stress, equal lean back, equal ultimately over the bars. Here are the rules for a square stance hinge. Pivot the knee over the middle of the foot. Watch my knee. Let's say we're gonna do a deadlift. Watch the knee, friends. Core's on, butt goes straight back. My torso folds to level. This is the position. This is the ready position for a human being. It's not here. This is the I'm ready for my quads to burn position. Butt's back, shoulders are down. What part of your body do you feel this in?
Hamstrings.
Hamstrings and booty, right? This is not just for show, friends, it's for go, right? So this is a square hinge. So we have a low hinge, your knee will be right over the middle of your foot. This is the low hinge, okay? And then we have available to us a high hinge. And by the way, if you're a gym person, this is the start for a standard deadlift, the low hinge. The high hinge is the start for a Romanian deadlift, a straight-legged deadlift, or a good morning. It's the same movement, right? So to hinge is to have our torso level. We have low, we have high. The bigger the range of motion between your low and high, the more leg suspension you have, period. As you come up, most of you people, look, do this in the mirror. You're gonna come up and you really wanna straighten your legs, but your hamstrings are gonna come tight and they're gonna pull you out of your hinge. The farther your shoulders are from the handlebars, the more you're a hunk of meat hurtling to an uncertain fate. The more you're a projectile. We wanna keep our shoulders close to the bars so we have control. So once this is clear in a motocross stance, then we're gonna matriculate to a bike stance. And you're gonna notice how awkward this is. So feet roughly 6 inches apart. Now we're gonna go for the same thing. So here's my hinge in a bike stance. And remember how I said in a low hinge, how your knees should be over the middle of the base? Check it out. Now this is my base and my knees are right over the bottom bracket. And so I have this isosceles triangle of awesomeness. Down here, I have the same angles between both femurs and both hips, so I'm riding with both asses. Most of us, this hamstring's too tight, so this hip gets pulled forward and down. And then what you end up with is one leg behind the other. Most cross-country, cyclocross, roadie type people, this is how they ride. And you're gonna notice, I feel stress in this quad. And so all you people who are used to having that back leg just murder you, the pain on the downhill, it's probably from this crookedness. We're gonna get to the point where we have a triangle of awesome. Your knees are gonna almost share a pivot. And you watch really high level downhill BMX enduro riders, when they're in the low hinge, you'll see this triangle of awesomeness. The shorter your cranks get, the easier this is. We all get to a point in our low hinge where we hit our thighs. Bonk. There are moments when you're gonna say absorb a big shape, a big rock, go off a crazy drop, like absorb a huge rock, or we're gonna go to the crazy low hinge. So we have our high hinge, we have our low hinge, now I'm hitting my thigh, and then we have the waha, the crazy low hinge, right? And so we don't live down here, but this is part of our world. And so how much suspension travel do I have with my legs now? Like probably almost way more. Thank you. So I've got a beautiful bike with 160 millimeters of reactive suspension. Yeah. I've got a beautiful body with, let's say, 24 inches of pre-active suspension. I highly recommend going through a sequence like we just did every time you ride your bicycle. Ideally, you do it in the parking lot, ideally. Or if you live somewhere around here, the Front Range of Colorado, you might climb for a half hour, which loosens you up. You do your stretch at the top before the downhill. But never, never, never dive into a downhill unless your hinge is active, period. When you get to some crazy like downhill moment, a big rock garden, a big jump, a drop, a crazy corner, we need that hinge to be spot on, subconscious, boom, every single time. If it's not available every single time, you're in danger. So for whatever kind of crazy riding you get into, if you feel a hinge in your posterior back in here and you have completely weightless hands, you're set up for success. Every other skill that we do is built off either being in a hinge or driving out of a hinge. And that's the start.